I'm Alex Del Sordo, and this is the first of its kind. This is an athlete weigh-in to the grand final of the PR1 with juggernauts of our sport. We have Ali Frazier, we have David versus Goliath, we have Benjamin Pritchard and Blake Haxton. This is USA versus the UK. This is something that we have been dreaming of here at Rower's Choice, and we're going to talk about this race. So I'm going to open up. Blake, you are the clear underdog here. Your best 2K is an 8:12. This guy crushes a 7:33, but you're the rower. I mean, you did this as a sport in high school. I have to give you the victory here. Let me just do this for USA right now. How are you feeling as the underdog?
Well, not great statistically. No, I mean, I'm rooting for, I got to root for Ben to fall off over here. That's the home run swing. But no, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, I think it's a great competition, and I'm glad we both got to be in it and compete head to head. I mean, I think one of the best things about the erg competition for para rowing, as it relates to the rest of the rowing world, is it's a much easier thing to relate to. I think most people can consider an erg and, try and, keep your feet out or whatever and pull a time and kind of understand what it takes to do what we do. And I think that's really cool in a way that is very, very hard to replicate in a boat, just because so many people are never going to sit in one. Mm-hmm. So I think that's great. I think all that's good stuff.
So listen, people told us when you made it down to the final, this was Ali Frazier. You guys are big names in the para sport. Ben, you had won bronze, I think, at the World Cup recently. You took to rowing fairly recently. What has been your experience in rowing and getting to know Blake? Because I know you commented on one of our messages before. What has been your experience with rowing?
No, so yeah, my rise to the international stage kind of came last year. I've been on the GB program now for three years. I had my accident in 2016, and I've been on the program for 3 years, and it took some time to kind of get any speed on the water on the erg. Blake will know that with our injury, it's not about just pulling hard. You've got to try and manage so many other things as well. So it took 3 years, and then last year it kind of all came around a bit quickly. I just left my job in London and moved home to Wales, bought a house in Wales, and then 4 months later was asked to go full-time on the GB program and go to the qualification regatta. And I know that Blake was at the canoe one as well as the rowing one, and he kind of flew in 3 days, I think, or 2 days before the championships was at Blake, and we kind of had a quick hello at the warm-up, but unfortunately we never met on the water. Our draw kind of fell the other side of the draw. When I went in, it kind of, going into the race, I had the people that I knew I'd be competing against, or be there or thereabouts, and Blake was definitely one of the guys that I'd kind of pinpointed as this could be qualification or not qualification. If I came up against him in a heat or in a semi, it could knock me from that 6th place to the 8th place, or from 6th to 7th, But the main thing was, we could pulled up off the water, came off the training session and just sat and chatted, and it's amazing that in our sport at the World Championships, a very stressful environment, you can just wheel up to anybody and just take a hand out and shake somebody's hand and just be another guy and have a great conversation.
You guys make this really hard for me. I am trying to just make you guys enemies, and it's just not happening. I mean, you guys like each other.
Yeah, well, it's also hard when you're bringing a knife to a gunfight over here.
No, Blake, don't be silly. This is more down your way. This is a sprint, man. This is down your field all the way. I think if we look at my rounds the way through, I was really impressed with what Mikel did, the Mexican sculler, and he, I kind of went into the last round and I was like, I'm facing Blake in the final. I kind of had the confidence to say that it was going to be a Blake and I final, and was trying to reserve some energy to make sure that I had enough to fight Blake. And then I'm lucky I didn't reserve too much, because when the scores came in and I saw how close Mikel was, I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy is up and coming. And talk about a fast riser, I don't know where he finished. I think he was in the FD final at World Champs last year, and here he is pulling, I think, 30 meters short of me and in 750 meters, and 30 seconds slower than I am. So he's somebody to watch for the future, that's for sure. I don't know what you're thinking about that, Blake. But
No, I totally agree. I think there is sort of that progression. I don't know if you progress this way, but your sprint time sort of get, let's call it like anything under 2 minutes, maybe your times kind of drop quickly when you start training, and then you start getting out the distance, and that just, it just takes a few years. So I'm right there with you. I think he's someone that, and up until that, the semifinals, I guess, I kind of thought, all right, well, Ben, not saying you would, but I was like, Ben could probably coast in here and just kind of set up. And when the score came out, I was like, geez, that ended up a lot tighter than I thought it would be. So no, I agree with all that.
Is there another athlete in the PR1 that you guys are looking at right now as an up and comer aside from Miguel?
Daniel Ishmael from Israel, I think, from the World Championships. So we both raced the first races together. So in 2018, I raced the Paralympic regatta in Gavirate in Italy. It was kind of my first regatta, and I remember being there and expecting to come last. It was my first international regatta, and when they did the draw for that race, I pulled Polyansky in the lane next to me in the heat, and I was like, oh well, that's my race over. Like, he is just a machine. And but then Daniel was also in that regatta, and we've kind of grown at the same elevation. But last year he really surprised me because I raced him in the May at Gavirate, and he didn't really feature. And that's not me trying to be negative towards him, because I think he's a great athlete. But he didn't really feature. He didn't have a great regatta. And then he came to the World Championships and he made the A final. And I think that was a shock to you, Blake, because I kind of had you to be there with me in the A final. And yeah, so I think, himself and Mikel are the up and comers. And I think, hopefully I consider myself an up and comer, being I'm new to the sport. But hopefully we can kind of stay ahead of them a little bit before next year.
No, I think that's right. I was surprised, to see just how much speed he'd picked up, because, we'd raced for a few years and kind of knew each other from before. And I think it sort of goes to what you were talking about before, and that learning curve in para especially, learning how you got to deal with all your own stuff inside the boat, and it's not one size fits all. And it can take a few years of iterations to really figure out how you can best move the boat. And I was just watching his stroke and watching how he sits in the boat. I mean, if you look at like the 2018 or 2017 World Championship videos, and then you look at last year, his stroke's almost totally different. I mean, there's a lot more swing. There's a lot more body. He's kind of bunching up his legs so he can really create some tension out of his lower body that he's translating into the water for really the first time, I think, in his career. So, yeah, I was surprised to see that much speed. And it was I think last year was the fastest race maybe ever. And that's just not for the gold, not for the medals, but all the way down. I
remember going
I was just gonna say, as the bubble guy racing for seventh, that's not where you want to be. The other thing I would say, the other up and comer, and not even necessarily the athlete, because sometimes you don't know who the athlete will be. But China's always you've always got to have your head on a swivel, because you really never know who's going to show up, and then what condition they're going to be in. But you do know that, especially in the Paralympic year, they're probably going to be really fast.
Yeah, China's the left tackle in terms of football, isn't it? That is the left tackle. You never know how they're going to play in a game. They might have one sack, or they might have 15. You just don't know.
You don't know, and they can throw a wrench into the whole thing. And even year to year, so the last cycle, 2015, China showed up and was not much of a threat at all in the qualifier. I think might have been back of the B final, maybe. Didn't qualify. And then a year later in Rio, he and I were, I think, a tenth of a second apart. So it's just kind of a wild card.
I love listening to you guys talk about this. I mean, I was hoping for animosity, but as you guys talk, like, you guys love the history of the sport. You've been doing this long enough. Are you, like, you're both going after the top spot for your country, right? For the Olympics. Like, so you would probably see each other come Olympic time. I mean, is that a fair assessment to make right now? Like, are you guys?
I hope to get there. Yeah. We, unfortunately, our selection in Great Britain, I don't know how it works in the USA, but in Great Britain, the qualification regatta last year qualified the boat a spot. And then we have to fight it out internally in GBR to get whoever goes, whether it's me, Andy, Tom Agar might come out of retirement, whoever it may be. But, I hope that everything I've done so far puts my name in the ring and gets me close to that selection call. But given COVID-19, we've got to reset that selection criteria, and we go again in the winter, and our selection process starts again in November.
I saw an article this week with an able-bodied rower. One of the guys at GB broke 540. I can't find
Tom George, incredible, 5:39.
I mean, what is going on? I did not expect to see, even with you guys, like on the pair rowing side, we're watching scores and people are telling us that was my PB. I've never done that before. So COVID, in a way, kind of helped out rowers a little bit. I mean, it's gotten the tension down from the Olympics, and now we're seeing scores never done before. And we're seeing on the pair side.
I think it's giving you the confidence, for me especially, it's giving the confidence of the games aren't now in August. So if I want to try a certain pace and method, I've got the ability to do so. Or if I want to try and do some longer ergs, longer UT2 ergs, then I can. And that's something that I've definitely been doing, is once a week I've been doing, the 15, 20K longer ergs rather than sticking to an hour. But also, because we're not allowed on the water, being sat on an erg, your body becomes more efficient at it. It's the same in the weight room. The more you lift 100 kilos, the better you become and the better efficient your body becomes at doing it. So I think because our training is limited to pulling the chain back and forth, you start to become more efficient and able to pull better scores. And I know I'm certainly pulling scores that I wasn't pulling in the midst of erg season, which is normally the winter here in the UK. When I did my 7:32, 7:33, I thought that was the best time I was going to do all season. And I think I'm kind of on that form now in the middle of race season,
So last comments, you two, as we end this interview. What do you want to say to one another? How do you want to close this out? Blake, you're up first.
Yeah, I mean, hey, good luck. I think you nailed it with, it's kind of nice. It feels just like a really long erg season. So it's nice to kind of, make it a little more interesting. But, the tough thing is, we're looking at, we run a trial selection. So it's an open entry, but it's an on the water winner take all trial. So when this ends, it's probably another good 9 months on the erg. So, it's just one more step on the way, right? But hey, no matter what happens, good luck, and hope if everything goes right, that I get to see you in person next year.
There you go. Ben, how do you want to close out?
Yeah, it's just obviously the first thing has got to be a massive thanks to yourself and CJ for putting on the event, because it's been, for me, it's kind of given the focus, or taking the focus away from the COVID situation and giving me something to want to get on that erg for the first point. And then secondly, a massive thanks to the PR1 Foundation for putting our entries up and allowing people like Mikkel to enter that might not have entered if they'd had to pay the entrance fee. And that's the second thing. And then obviously third thing is Blake, hopefully we'll have a good race towards the end of the week, and if we can get it live then we can, but if not, I hope that it's going to be a close one, and I'm sure you're going to bring your A game, as am I. And then like you said, hopefully we'll get to see each other next season, be that at the Europeans or at the bigger games.
Well, guys, that is it. I hope you enjoyed watching our first ever pre-weight weigh-in breakdown of these two guys competing. We will work on the live stream to watch these guys compete in a 5 minutes and 54 second all out for meters time. Hope you enjoyed watching, and thanks again.